You built the business. Now, build the man. This is the Ben Price Experience.
Jonnie Jensen, welcome to the Ben Price Experience. Who are you and why are you here?
Ben, bloody good to spend some more time with you. My name's Jonnie Jensen. I'm the head coach and the founder at the High Value Man Project. I am a performance coach for business owning and career-minded midlife dads. And the focus is on creating success and happiness at home, which is what they've all got outside the home, but we want them to thrive in the home, basically. And we're here through our mutual contacts / friends, Penny and Thomas Power. So any friend of those guys is a pleasure to meet. So thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So what is a high value man and why is that important?
So for me, it is about values. You see the phrase high value man around the internet, right? And some people want to use it and cajole, twist it into sort of the alpha stuff. But actually for me, being a dad, being a man who's truly connected to who he is and what he wants, aka his values, allows us to live from a strong foundation, like a strong compass. It's very that expression, you know, if you stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And too many men find themselves in that situation where they're looking out for everybody else, or they think they've got to work hard enough to make it all happen. And when they do that, they'll be happy. And their partner, their wife, she starts making all the decisions and doesn't want to rock the boat, or like, it all suddenly becomes this slow drift, this what I call the low value death spiral, where frustration creeps in, work's stressful, fatigue, crap food, poor health, porn, gambling, doom scrolling, depression, relationship breakdown. Like when you start to piece it all together, the decline of men is actually quite obvious. And let alone we'll probably get into some of the science stuff around dopamine and oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins as well. But men are allowing themselves to suffer. And the high value man, it's a message, it's a system for living that says when you're true to your values and you pursue it, life will work out. And over again, both in myself and my experience of putting myself back together, but in the men that I work with, the results happen quite quick. And that's literally like the difference between putting petrol, you know, in a diesel car. Like you got to put the right fuel in and then the car's going to go.
Yeah, nice. So how does one go about uncovering their values?
A good question. Thank you.
Where
Ben.
do you start? Where do you start with?
Values are a funny thing. It's not something you necessarily think about. Like a lot of men who I bring that question to, they're like, I work hard, or family, you know. And actually, yes, for most decent blokes, those two things are probably going to be in there, right? But working hard, is that really a value? You know, you look at actually what like working hard as a value might be. It could be performance. It could be high standards. When you get a car, you buy a nice car. When you go on holiday, you stay in a nice hotel. It's like you're looking for the nicer side of life. So actually working hard is actually about quality of life or performance or experiences, right? Where you go looking for values, Brian Tracy, famous American sort of personal development author guy, he talks a lot about this, Bob Proctor as well. But if you look at the everyday things that you either like or wind you up, you'll notice your values. If you look at celebrities or famous sports people or authors that you admire, you'll start to see some qualities amongst all those that you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting, right? So my values are family, it's laughter, it's winning, it's communication, and it's generosity. And my ability to recite those quite quickly, yes, I need to be able to prove a point. But also for me as a man, to have them that top of mind, I've now got a strong compass when I go into any situation. If someone says to me, oh, I've left my bloody, no, here's a better one. Dad, I need picking up from a party. Yeah, sure. Okay. You pick him up and there's 3 of his mates standing there. Now, I'm not criticizing other parents. I don't know their story, right? That's not about this, but I'm not about to drive off and leave those 3 lads standing there when I know I live in Maidstone. You could drive from one side to the other side of the town in about 20 minutes. Do you know what I mean? So like from a generosity value, I'm going to say, how are you getting home, lads? Jump in. And then you get, when you live like that, people, not only can you count on yourself, but other people get to count on you for those things. You don't have to go around with a T-shirt and a flipping badge saying, I'm generous, I'm generous. It's just about how you show up. And honestly, so many men don't do that. And the flip side to that is when you're living out of alignment, like if you're not living in congruence with your own values, then it's like when you're on the motorway and you veer off into the like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm off course. We don't realize that though, when we're living out of alignment with our core values, particularly in relationships, like marriage, particularly with friends, work, like if you're not in alignment with values, you ain't gonna have a good day, let alone a good life.
Yeah. So the place to start with it is really like, what do you aspire to? What can you see in others that you really like? And what kind of grates you as well?
Yeah. So one of Brian Tracy's exercises, right, and I actually use this exercise, you set a stopwatch and you say, right, all the things I love about life, the world, TV, and all the things I don't like. 2 separate columns, right? You can do like whatever, 3 minutes for each. And you just start putting stuff down, like, and don't try and get it right. If you like chips, put chips, right? Like, because the worst thing you could do is get stuck on saying, should I say it? Should I not say it? When you get to the end of the 2 minutes and you've actually got a few things that talk about food and family life and enjoying things, you like, oh, actually, I like making stuff, or I like family time, or I like socializing. You see, food isn't just about sticking something in your mouth, you know? And so you stop the clock and then you look at all the words you've written down and you see if you can start to put them into groups. And then when you put them into groups, maybe one of the words inside that will be the obvious headline for that group, or maybe it'll be really apparent that all those things are about socializing. So connection or communication or simply friendship is really important to you. Yeah. And I said when my values, I said family, right? For me, that isn't just about blood. That's about my friends. It's about people I can count, like Thomas and Penny. Like, I've known Thomas about 30. He's not like a bosom buddy. We don't speak to each other every week. He's the kind of guy that I know if the chips were down, I could call him and say, I need a favor. Now, for me, that's family. And, you know, I feel like I've got those kind of relationships with people in my past because when I meet them for the time that we are involved in something together, I bring that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like that. So how did you get to doing this work in the first place?
Good question again. Thank you. My story, because I'm a 90s kid, like obviously born in 74, so I'm a 90s kid. So TV, late night TV, like before there was hundreds of channels, you know, and raving, smoking weed and just like the experience of sitting there at 1 o'clock in the morning with the TV on and Tony Robbins going, I'm talking to you, right? So, sort of infomercial at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had actually bought a book a while before that, about 8 months before that, called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So that was my introduction to personal development. With my mum dying when I was a kid and having quite a roller coaster teenage years, I was aware that I was a little bit struggling at times. You know, life was ups and downs and heartbreak. If I was in a relationship, I was clinging on to her for dear life. If I wasn't in a relationship, it was like, don't go, you're shit, but don't go. You're kind of aware that you're not on an even keel with things. So I was moved up to London and everybody on the tube, I'm sorry to jump about a bit, everyone on the tube was reading this book, or so it seemed, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Now, if you know a little bit about how your mind works, a bit like love songs on the radio when you break up with someone, what you're focused on shows up in your life. So here's me thinking, I'm a bit lost, a bit like struggling. I keep seeing his book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Read that. Then Tony Robbins pops up on TV and encourages me to buy his CDs and stuff. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Like, why didn't anybody show me this, teach me this? Why did only someone could have told me this ages ago, you know, I was about 25 or something. But to know and not to do is not actually to know. And so I was learning all this personal development stuff, but still like bumbling through life. Another relationship that ended quite badly and, or not badly, but just heartbreak. I was miserable for ages. And a friend of mine said to me, I'm fed up with you being miserable. Go and do the Landmark Forum. And
nice.
I did the Landmark Forum and I was just like, whoa. I mean, I can talk about that topic it's another whole podcast in itself, but it's a 3.5 day weekend in which you suddenly get to realize that all this baggage and shit you've been carrying around with you is not actually helping. It's not actually necessary. And so then sitting in a room and there's the Landmark Forum leader at the front of the room running this event for about 200 people, which in a way was a bit Tony Robbins like. And I'm just thinking, this is amazing. To be making the difference to these amount of people, to be having that sort of knowledge and wisdom and the ability just to dance in the conversation and see through people's crap and help them out. I was just like, surely I can do that. Now, that was 2006, 2007. I fell in love, got married I proposed 6 weeks after we first snogged. And I was just like, I'm going to make this work. She's incredible. This is going to be the best thing ever. Like, yes, I'm finally going to create the family I want. And, fast forward 7 years and a whole load of unexpected life experiences. And we ended up divorced. And so the experience then of her being ill, miscarriages and a lot of stuff dragged on, my little brother chucked himself in front of a train, my own mental and emotional breakdown, putting myself back together. I realized I was pulling on all this, what was then, sort of some sort of 20 odd years of personal development knowledge. And it became the blueprint for what is now the high value man system for living. And actually the moment where I realized that the struggle, the upset, the divorce, the dead mum, the everything else that I'd been through, I was up a mountain climbing with a mate. He said, we should go climbing, right? That's his love language. Like, he's not very huggy and he doesn't do deep and meaningful, but he does know when a mate needs help. And he goes, why don't we go climbing? Because that's his back. Yeah. So we're up a mountain, caught in a blizzard. It's all a bit touch and go. And I just had this moment where I realized, shit, I've been worrying about a whole load of stuff. And I got this real strong, audible message. Who are you to think that I would answer your prayers when and how you wanted? And whether you believe in God or don't believe in God, like I'm big on, there's a bigger universe out there than we fully understand, right? And it was like, my gosh, yeah. So what if this was all supposed to happen for a reason? What if I was supposed to use it and make something of it? And that's where the first version of the System for Living came into my brain. We got out of this blizzard and ended up in this mountain hut. I said to her, I need a piece of paper. She gave me her bar pad, like a little flipping tiny scrap of paper. And I wrote down what then was about 6 different steps, but is now 8 years later, the high value man system for living. And of course, working with men is all about my experience of seeing my dad struggle after my mum died, having a business, closing a business, starting a new business, bringing up 2 kids, and then going through it myself 20 years later, having my little brother take his own life and seeing the shit show that family court is and how many other men are struggling. I was like, what if men got grounded and not took control of their misses, but like took control of themselves and their lives in a powerful way that led their family, that allowed their wife to thrive, that saw their kids growing up with strong role models. Yes, that's what I'm here to do on this planet.
Wow. Okay. So you had a mother wound and you had a father wound also.
Yeah, well, yeah, most definitely, yeah.
Which do you think was more relevant or impactful on you?
Oh, Benny boy, good question. Interesting that we mentioned the Landmark Forum. When I was at the Landmark Forum, I was sat next to this big black woman. She's a bit like Rusty Lee, if you remember Rusty Lee, the TV cook from sort of 90s. I was like, this is amazing. I lived my whole life thinking I was upset because my mum died and I didn't know who I was. And now I've realised it was actually because of that horrific thrashing my dad gave me a year and a half earlier. I was like, this is great. And then she goes, but Johnny, if you moved it from your mother to your father, why not move it completely out the way? And I was just like, mind blown. My mother, that losing my mum though and seeking security in future relationships. I associated love and being with a woman as family, as like bond, right? So I made every girl I was in a relationship my everything. And that's not really how a relationship is constructed. I didn't realize that at the time. I became quite desperate and I wouldn't say needy, but when things started to go wrong, instead of going, I'm not sure this is the one, like, here's the kind of relationship I'm interested in having. Are you interested in that? Or why don't you tell me what you're interested in and then we'll go from there. I would just be desperately trying to hold on to something that really wasn't worth holding on to. So my dad was a real and still is an utter maverick and character. And so looking to emulate him, looking to live my life in the fun way and successful way that he always has. I think, and even the thrashing, his mum used to flipping wallop him. And we found out during a completion conversation that that night I just mentioned, he said to me, yeah, I remember that. That was the day they told us your mum was going to die, and I took it out on you.
Oh, wow.
And so you know, mother wound, father wound, there's some stuff to understand about how we think and function in our feelings and hearts.
Yeah.
But ultimately, in asking that question, for all of us to be aware that there is a question that can be asked like that, and then through it going, okay, well, who is Jonnie? What is true self here? How do I come to this situation free from all that so that I get to create, so that I get to experience things in the moment, in the new?
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to what is a shadow and how, what is a shadow and how's it caused?
I'm in the coaching test here.
It's just the reason I ask it is because I did a post about it recently and it got a lot of interest. And so I want to just help people understand a bit more about what shadows are, because they're relevant to every single man. Right?
Yeah. So this is Jonnie's version of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, there is a small, generally disempowered version of ourselves somewhere inside, and it will be running the show from its small, insecure place inside. Now, failing to know that it's there has us think that's how we are. That's what we're worried about. We're like, oh, I can't do this because I'm not very good. Instead of being able to realize, oh, you think you can't do it because of something that happened when you were younger, little, tiny, and you've dragged it all this way into the future with you. So, you know, when I'm working with my clients, one of the places I talk about in the early stages of the coaching is, right, what does Ben 2.0 look like? What's the truest version of yourself? If we plot it all out on what we call the high value man blueprint, like what does life look like? How are you showing up? You go, okay, great. Right. Now, why isn't that guy showing up? What about you right now can't be those things? And actually that is where we reveal the shadow self. That's where we reveal this uncertain, uncomfortable, insecure, like hurt, harmed, whatever the experience was in our childhood that left us uncertain is that thing. And part of my shadow is, am I getting this right? Like, is this the wrong decision? Like, and that's very common for people, right? But it's what I can see through a lot of work. I felt like I had to make all my own decisions. Like I was on my own. I didn't have anyone else to turn to. And then you drag that forward into adult life. We're like, oh, it's really difficult to make a decision. Or what if I get this wrong? And procrastination and hesitation and making, or the flip side, sometimes you make really impulsive decisions like, yeah, let's get married.
Yeah.
That's this crazy young fella, like making wild, like hit and hope moves, you know? So
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. It sounds like, there's been a lonely time as well.
I speak like lovingly into that, because losing my mum at a young age, I was 9, my brother was 7. Other women stepped in. So my aunt, like her sister, like very much my mother figure, but a lady called Jilly, like lifelong, well, about lifelong, but you know, a very close friend of my mum's, cousin / aunt in America, Mary. Like, other women stepped in and not tried to replace, but certainly filled the void in a wonderful, loving way. And that part of it, I can see now has offered me a richness that, yes, no one wants to lose their mum, and who knows what it would have been like if she'd have been around, and all those women would have been in my life anyway. So it's not about, oh, well, it was better that way. Like, you could never answer that question. Rather than hang on to, yeah, well, it's awful because I never had a mum, you're able to say, well, do you know what? Look at what I did get as a result of it. And the loneliness part, yeah, it was 1983. People didn't really talk about cancer in the way they do now. My dad lost his wife, 2 young boys. The way that he fixed it was just through money and fun at it. Yeah, it was fun. We did have lots of holidays and there was a lot of laughter. But in terms of processing the upset, you know, I cried myself to sleep a lot. You know, hard to know who to share that with when you're a 14-year-old lad, you know.
Yeah.
But again, the loneliness was probably a fear of loneliness that had me be the way I was in some of my relationships. This journey, this divorce, the family court, fighting for my kids, coming out the other side, I now am in a relationship where it's not like I call the shots, but like I'm in charge of my side of the relationship. I'm showing up as a strong, confident, grounded, charismatic man in our relationship. I have created with a wonderful woman, because I wasn't rushing around desperately trying to find one. I've I've chosen someone, and that loneliness, that real deep sense of trust and belonging, it comes. And I think men have to realize that the impatience of needing something now in the moment, well, we got 70, maybe 80 years to work this out. Hang in there, buddy. Let's enjoy the ride.
Yeah. Nice. Can you speak a little bit to initiation and what does that word mean to you?
How I hear that is about feeling like you're included. I can't think what the word is, but like being part of something, right? And initiation as a young man, a welcoming into a group. Obviously, if we're Jewish and there's bar mitzvahs, if we're Native American, there's rituals that go on around young men and girls in those things. So I think there's a part of it which is being welcomed into a group, and there's another part of it which is an acknowledgement of life stage. And in modern life, I see that there's not enough made about those two things. Recognizing the new chapter that we're in is incredibly powerful. Couples get this wrong all the time. Trying to operate with two young kids like yourself, right? In the same way that you were when you first got together. It's like, well, no, we're in a different chapter right now. Let's acknowledge that chapter. Let's find out what it's about like to be in that chapter, and let's have success in that chapter. So there's a part of that which is an initiation. And then again, in that respect, being acknowledged as someone who's now in that stage and being acknowledged and feeling the confidence of being surrounded by people who are on that journey, in that stage with you, is beautiful. And the way that humans' brains work, as well as being this incredibly powerful machine, it's also quite a dumb operating system. Like, tell me what we're up to and I'll focus on that and make sure we have a bloody good time. So in the realms of initiation, let's create the constructs of this chapter. Let's give you everything that you need to thrive, to survive, let alone thrive. And let's put some good guys around you. And let's make a big deal of this moment that you're in.
Yeah, I love that. It's a different take on perhaps what I've thought about initiation, but it's also still very relevant. It's sort of like the ceremony around a birthday, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's the ceremony that I don't know, it's not that important anymore, is it? Just have a birthday. But it's kind of like, no, you're in another chapter, another year of your life, like having a kid or, I think we've lost a lot of that ceremony and the importance of it. And
absolutely. It's all been commercialized and dumbed down and turned into fluff. And that's because, whatever you think of church and faith, and, I have faith. I'm not a big fan of church, but I have a definite, distinct, strong faith. I've had miracles happen in my life that tangibly happened to me. So, but church had that, even, Boy Scouts and stuff. I don't know what the numbers are for Cubs and Scouts in the world these days, but even pomp and ceremony, private schools get flipping lambasted for their traditions. Well, maybe the traditions are good. I don't mean like weird flipping stuff in the bike sheds, right? But like traditions of uniforms and opening ceremonies and acknowledging people and celebrating those that have gone before us, I think is so, so important. It's a collective path that particularly mobile phones and social media have just absolutely smashed. But men in particular, I say, no, not necessarily more than women, but men in particular, we're talking about men, need that. We thrive off of it. It grounds us. It gives us an emotional guardrail. It's really important to have those things around us, because without them, we are literally left to fend on ourselves.
Yeah. And so in the High Value Man, do you do any kind of initiation or ceremony or ritual?
We've had some events, my weekend events that I fully want to run. If I'm honest, it's one of my failings in the 6 years that we've been around. I've sort of scheduled them. I've said to people, we're going here and doing this, and I've had 3 people sign up, or it's like, okay, we can't do that, whatever. I'm a qualified firewalk instructor, and so having those weekends, putting together events and involving, whether it's board breaks or glass walks or of course the firewalks as well, those kind of events, I have got it scheduled in for May to do it. But in amongst this, I've certainly been on events, and for the High Value Men, welcome them into the program, acknowledging and celebrating them when they, the first part of it is 12 weeks. Some guys have been working with me for nearly 5 years now. Other guys just finished their 12 weeks and that's that. But making something of those moments, we've done it. We've done some walks, which are
Wow.
great on terms of a social event and a connection. And I really want to, the plan is there to actually do those weekend events. I just need the numbers.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Mm.
I think I might have said this to you before, but whenever I do my camps, I'm just like, do you know what? I'm going to go camping. And if anyone comes with me, great.
Ben, I really respect that, flipping Field of Dreams, build it and then they will come, like apparently, and this is obvious when you think about it, the Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, standing in Washington on the Mount, talking to 1 million people. He had given that speech, versions of it, right? He had been giving that speech for a number of years before, all across America, to a room full of people, a church full of people, a town square full of people.
Yeah.
He had to do those events to get to 1 million in Washington. And I'm guilty of not respecting that, basically. And I take that on the chin as a lesson. There's no such thing as failures. It's all just lessons to grow from. Build it and they will come. It's literally, many idiots have been successful simply because they kept plugging away.
That was useful for me to hear because, my last camp had 2 people come.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God. But do you know what? I'm going to go anyway. Because I missed the November one, partly because we had loads of cancellations. It was November or December, I can't remember. And the weather was really, really bad. I mean, I had 8 people like signed up for the camp, and then half of them were sick, half of them had injuries. And then there was like 2 people left, and then the weather was really bad. And I was like, I think this is actually so bad that I won't even be going. So
yeah.
So I cancelled that one, but I just really missed it. I missed it for me. And I was like, I need this time out. And so, so my commitment this year, I'm going for me. And if I'm the only one there, great. I'll go and film some content in the woods or, I'll just go, or not, just because the whole point is to get away.
Is that your OnlyFans page? Or?
Yeah, for one, yeah. 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 And so it's good to hear because, and we had a great time anyway. Those 2 people, we had a phenomenal time and it was good intensive. It was intensive for them to sort of experience the work.
And on that point, going back to the epiphany I had up the mountain, thinking about some of my times at landmark events, who are we to say that 2 people it wasn't what you wanted, but who are we to say that 2 people wasn't what was meant to happen or supposed to happen?
100%.
And,
totally agree.
The person in the room is the person who was supposed to be in the room. And then you just get to go, right, I'm going to bring my A game because that's the opportunity I've been given. I'm literally coaching myself here, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's really good. That's what it's all about, right? That's the ultimate goal, is to get that to that point. Yeah, it was good. And I've just spoken to one of the guys who was there, he is a client, so one of them was a client, one of them wasn't. Yeah. And he's had some massive shifts just from that one experience. And he's like got his vision board up now, finally. He's got his like big ass calendar on the wall. He's got like some direction in his business. And I'm like, I'm excited for you. I'm really excited for you. Yeah. So it was awesome.
I've got a phone number been texted me today. There's a wilderness, it's kind of like a wilderness school, but a church owns this woodland area near me, and it's all decked out for fires and camp. I don't know what the scoop is with camping, but in terms of going and spending the day there and doing wilderness stuff and making fires and eating there, and it's just outside Maidstone, so there's plenty of places for camping as well. So it's happening. Okay, we're putting a line in the sand here.
You're announcing it now on the podcast.
Yes. With the Kingmaker bringing his guys down as well, so we'll have 4 people plus 2, with 6 of us there for sure.
So what do you imagine the event would look like if you were doing some fire walking, what's the point? What's the point in doing those things as well?
Well, in and of itself is about personal breakthroughs.
Right.
Who we know ourselves as is nothing like our full potential. For most people, unless you're bloody. Who's the guy, the Olympic world record? I'm trying to say Linford Christie. Usain Bolt, right? Clearly Usain, as fast as Linford Christie was, Usain Bolt's the man, right? Those guys are like at peak performance, okay? But for the rest of us, we're like, I just don't know if I can do that. I don't know what I'm possible. I don't know what I'm capable of. Like, I could try it, but what if it's cold? Or what if I get hurt? Or what if I've got a cold? Or she doesn't like that, so I can't leave her here. Or like yada da 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 da. Firewalking and the other exercises, the other experiences that go with firewalking are so incredibly powerful in terms of breakthroughs, like personal levels of capability, of possibility. Tolly Burkan is actually the Western godfather of firewalking. Tony Robbins did his first walk with Tolly Burkan. So everybody that's firewalked with Tony Robbins, and you're probably talking hundreds of thousands, if not, I don't know if it's 1 million people, but certainly hundreds of thousands of people have firewalked with Tony Robbins. That's as a result of him meeting Tolly Burkan. Tolly Burkan's got some incredible books, and he's the mentor of the guys that I learned to firewalk underneath. Okay. A board break, an arrow break, bending rods by like leaning on a metal rod with your throat and having that bend in the middle, walking over like smashed glass and it not cutting your feet, let alone walking over fire, like burning wood, like the embers of a fire that can be upwards of like sort of 1200 degrees. We don't think we can do that. And yet in the moment at an event like that, we push through what we thought we were capable of into a whole new domain. And inside of that, you know, like life takes over once you come home, but certainly in the 48 hours or 7 days after that, you're filled with the, well, if I could do that, what else could I do? And so for me, a weekend spent together with men is about that. It's like, what baggage am I putting up with in my life? What am I waking up and stressing and struggling about each day? Any kind of thought of, don't know how to fix this. I'm on my own. No one else is fit. Yeah, but you don't understand. It's not the same for you. Like, shut up, mate. Like, honestly, although we all think that, we're all pretty much going through the same thing. And whilst one person might have stubbed their toe and the other person banged their thumb, they're still experiencing a sense of pain and discomfort, you know, as their head tingles and their body throbs. Like, I know that's a very strange literal example, but someone's lost their wife to cancer and someone else has gone through a shitty divorce. They're like, yeah, but you don't understand. It's like, well, actually, when you sit and talk, yeah, I do. And then a guy's like, just lost his business and he's going, yeah, I'm in the same boat. Or another guy who's completely successful and got nothing to worry about, but he's actually miserable because he's got no direction in his life and he's feeling the same thing. So when you put men together in a weekend like that, and it's not all about sitting around in a circle going, tell me something miserable. No, it's about getting out and going on seeing the sun come up, like going on an hour hike to get to the top of the hill. So when the sun comes up, you go, wow.
Yeah.
Not only have I just sweated my bollocks off, but also had a right laugh on the way up and also heard some mad secrets that people have probably never shared before. But now I'm standing on top of this hill, mountain, penny fan, snowed and whatever it looks like. And the sun comes up and that tiny view of the world that you've been squished into is suddenly exploding and you're looking hundreds of miles to the left of you, in front of you and to the side of you. And you turn around and you've got this connection with these strangers you don't really know. And you go, oh my gosh, those massive problems are just tiny bits of bullshit. What on earth am I doing drilling myself out about these things that don't honor the full potential of who I am? So then when you get into the rest of the day or the weekend, you go, right, you know that thought you had this morning? Well, let's do something with it. Like what could you be capable of? What is possible? And that's what men don't do enough of. We've stopped thinking about, where could I go? What's a big challenge? What's exciting? What's like, oh, I had an idea I could be a coach at one point, but I sort of gave up on it because life took over. And like, no, that not doing that thing is what's doing your nutting.
Yeah, it's getting out of our heads, isn't it? And just into our physical bodies a bit more.
Yeah. And at a crude level, having a bloody good laugh. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sitting around a fire, like challenging people to sing a song or tell a joke, or if you haven't got one, like there's a forfeit bag over there, and just like going home tired and dirty, like because you've been out camping, and just completely free, alive, you know, everything chucked on the fire and you're ready to go back to your missus and say, actually, this is a new chapter. I want to invite you to step into it with me. And then she goes, I've been waiting for you to come back.
Yeah, because they don't say anything.
Yeah. And not just come back from the weekend. I've been waiting for the man I married to show up, to the man I fell in love with to come back.
100%. I just realized why we connected. It was kind of because we had Thomas and Penny as mutual connections, but also because you commented on one of my LinkedIn posts.
Yeah.
And I think that post was Don't Talk.
It was a little bit about that, but it's also about men stepping up and being leaders in their life. And that lady had said, why is it all about men being powerful and leading?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I said to her, I think you've missed the point completely.
Yeah. 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 Well, she had.
She had, yeah. But that, and it was brilliant because that's what's going on in the world. Men are being called by guys like us to rise up, not rise up to take control, not rise up to recreate what we think we might have lost, right, or whatever. Not to rise up and stop women being awesome, but to define what being a strong, happy, confident, charismatic, masculine man looks like in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I said we need more kings, and she said we don't need more kings.
There we go. That's exactly it.
We absolutely need more kings.
Kings of our own domain, kings of ourselves. When you get out of bed and put your foot on the floor, instead of going, oh, not this again, you go, come on, let's have it. Like, I'm Jonnie bloody Jensen. And that kind of king for yourself.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, well, the one I was thinking of, which you sort of made me think about, is there's a lot of stats. There's this message, there's this idea that men don't talk, and the stats for male suicide, and you're obviously, your brother is one of them, those men. The stats show that we do talk and that we have tried to talk, and we're met with therapy that isn't really designed for us. We're met with antidepressants, or we're met with like, oh, you're a man, what the fuck, just get on with it. Yeah. Basically, I don't know how to deal with you opening up. You're a man. You're not supposed to be able to. You're supposed to be able to do this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in a similar vein to you, I have said throughout my coaching existence that men do talk. We 100%. Just need to create the right space for them to do it. And yeah, people can come at us with all sorts of examples and scenarios of workplaces where you weren't allowed to be softy, you weren't allowed to cry. Of course, that stuff is the case. But we've been put together in groups our whole existence, whether that was hunting as cavemen or whether that was digging holes as industrial revolution, whether it was being put into armies as Romans, whether it was being driven into slave labor. Like so often men have been put into groups. I just don't think for a second that they all sat there saying nothing. Right? I just don't believe that. Yeah, just shrugging their shoulders, looking at each other, going, got anything to say? Like everything's fine. I think and I feel that there would have been more dialogue, particularly in a safe space. Like if you'd have put a working class bloke from the 80s into a study with a bunch of guys from Eton, upper class, like, of course they probably wouldn't have spoken, but put them back in their own spaces and they probably would. And so again, a bit like the chapter example, men are a bit guilty of not creating a framework for a modern life. And sure, it's happened so quick. Maybe there wasn't, like, we were only just catching up. But don't forget as well, we had 2 world wars plus Vietnam. Like, we slaughtered 2 generations of men globally. Yeah, what would the world look like if those millions, I mean, it is millions of men and women and children, but specifically millions of men died. And the mad thing is, not to criticize people that didn't go to war or couldn't go to war, but it would have been a lot of strong, virile men, fighting men,
yes,
that went off to war. So we removed that slice of masculine evolution from our journey, from our trajectory. So it's a really interesting thing to consider. And actually, the age that I'm 51, right? My dad was born in 40 something. Like, so our kids today are only 2 generations since the war. Depending on if you've had kids a bit older, they could be 3 or so. And if you're real chavvy, you might be on your 4th generation, right? But there's the point, right? And so you and I, men like us, we're just catching up. And obviously women's rights, women's empowerment, all bloody important. I've got a daughter. I adore women. I want to see women thrive. But even then, the stuff that's coming out now, some of the reports and stuff about women's burnout and about women's fulfillment and women's satisfaction in life, they've been told that there's this promised land where they can work their ass off and have a career and put off having children. And now they're suddenly realizing, it's not actually that, it's not actually feels that good sort of thing. And the same for men. We're suddenly coming to this place where we realize that having a point of view, having a connection with ourselves, being able to laugh and joke in the same way that we always have, but in the next breath saying, Ben, all right, like, seriously, is the new baby okay? Like, are you exhausted? Like, do you need any help? Like, are you okay? Because we know, like, I've had kids, You've had one, but you've never had two, right? Two's different than one, I got to tell you, right?
Thank you.
But to be able to spot that, right? And I see my lad and his mates, they hug and banter. They're much more tactile with each other than perhaps we necessarily were when I was a teenager. And that doesn't mean that we didn't hug and laugh, and especially when we're out raving, right? But the idea that red pill and the manosphere is taking over is just bullshit hype. I said the other day, I used this example the other day, Sex Pistols, right? Sex Pistols, massive, yeah? Cultural icons, change the direction of music. Rick Astley has sold like 20 million albums. Sex Pistols sold about 2.5. So when you talk about impact, you talk about like, is Tate like the be all and end all of thing? Is the manosphere taking over? Or is actually there loads of good men with good messages looking out for the rest of us? Like, yes, as long as we can do the work we're doing, Ben, and as long as Andy's Man Clubs, Dad La Soul, Dad Space, Men's Sheds, loads of men's talking groups. I mean, there's like, there are so many. It's like a rising thing. And so I'm going right off on one now. Kansas and Kentucky in America have both made 50-50 as a standard position to start in breakups. It has slashed the number of divorce cases going through family court. It has slashed the number of divorces. And those topics in themselves are intrinsically linked. The number of single dads who commit suicide is statistically way higher than fathers in relationships. So like, it is all intertwined, and we have to address it. We have to recognize that, going back to your question, men do love to talk. We do love to take the piss out of each other. We do love to laugh and cry in equal measure. We do love to get sweaty and dance or jump off a cliff. And we do like to snuggle up and watch a movie. Like, we're flipping awesome. We're men. We're like men are flipping awesome. We got to get out there and have it like that. Like, own it.
Yeah. I've never once. So I have found myself agreeing and going along with that idea that men don't talk. And then I saw those stats and I was like, yeah, this is bullshit. And I've surprisingly, never had a guy who's come to one of my camps and just sat there in silence and not spoken. Because I always say you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, right? I've had a few people who have struggled to articulate what they wanted to say, but I've never had anyone just go, don't want to say anything. It always surprises me how much we actually want to
Provide the space, and that men are looking for it, yeah.
What is the manosphere for, people who don't know what it is? And I would like some clarity also, because I've only just heard this word.
The manosphere is definitely...
I saw there's a Netflix out, which I can't wait.
Louis Theroux. I love Louis Theroux.
I can't wait to watch that.
Of all the topics that
awful.
I don't think he's going to do justice to, I think this... If he turns it into entertainment and he goes looking for all these, like, right-wing, masculine... there's a thing called Men Going Their Own Way. MGTW. Right?
Okay.
Flipping heck. There is... Let me get this, answer your question properly answered, right? Rollo Tomassi is acknowledged as being, whether this is the case or not, but he's widely acknowledged as being the man who started the manosphere. Rollo Tomassi started a blog talking all about men showing up in the world, men not being snowflakes in relationships, like traditional male values. Now, I've read his book, The Rational Male. He's got a few books that fall under that, right? Some brilliant stuff in there, absolutely brilliant. Other stuff, absolute twaddle, right? And that's fine, because he's allowed to have his opinion. Some of his stuff about like, don't get with a single mum, like, I got to be honest, I did, and it didn't work out, right? But I take full responsibility for choosing someone who I wasn't compatible with, who wasn't compatible with me. You can't just write off all women just because they've had a child with some other geezer who might have been a dickhead anyway, right? So there's some stuff in there which, when you kind of go, the manosphere and red pill, like red pill, if you've seen The Matrix, the movie, it's like men waking up to the reality of what's going on. So you take the red pill and now you're red pill male. You're an awakened male. You're in the manosphere. Okay. You're calling women out on their bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. Now there is a lot of that, but it's fair. If you go over to America, my gosh, the men's groups in America and like, yeah, man, screw her. Yeah, she's dead to me. Like, like bitches, hoes, and, like, don't even think. And just, oh my gosh, like zero responsibility. But that's.
Yeah, you're not taking ownership.
Yeah, exactly. So other people then entered the space. Rollo Tomassi's blog turned into, the manosphere, right? So other people start writing and communicating on it. And I think that is healthy, you want people to contribute to the conversation. You're going to have people just like politics, center, left, right. The magic thing about polar opposites is they're almost identical. People who are polar opposites, you find out their views are pretty similar. Like, kill all white people. No, kill all black people. Oh, so we're killing people, are we? Right? It's just that we're going to kill different color people, right? Same extreme nonsense, just different ends of the spectrum. But then you bring people in, you say, well, maybe we shouldn't kill anyone. Like, what about that? And say, okay, good. That's a healthy conversation. So inside of the manosphere, there's definitely a healthy look at what modern masculinity looks like. Right. And I think that's really important. That's what this conversation is about.
Yeah, I don't think that's what the Louis... I saw like a trailer for it. It all seems to be very...
So he's gone off looking for the extremes.
For the nutters.
Yeah. And he's going to find them. And then he's going to say, look how common this is. And I'd hate to think how many times during that show the phrase toxic masculinity is going to come up. And I hate that phrase. I just... I just have strong issues about that phrase. It's like mansplaining as well. It's like, it's utter codswallop. Like, toxic people are toxic. The number of toxic women out there, I think, has to be just on the fact that we're two sort of versions of this creature living on a planet, almost 50-50. Common sense says there are an equal number of shitty women to the number of shitty men. Toxic feminists, toxic women, any family court situation where men are being dragged through the courts, being lied about, having their lives destroyed, having their work history, their reputations destroyed, that's toxic. And the things that get labelled as toxic masculinity, just some bloke being a bit of a dickhead, really. And of course, there are, again, extremes where you say, well, that is completely out of order, and no, you shouldn't belittle women, let alone hit women, or any kind of that. But the numbers and the stats on domestic violence perpetrated against men gets grossly misrepresented. George at the Tin Men on Instagram and LinkedIn, incredible content and information about all things to do with not so much like men's rights. What he's doing is he's rebalancing the conversation around actually what it's like for men in the world right now. And it's really important that it doesn't get sensationalized. Andrew Tate is the most searched for person, right? That's because every time the bloody Daily Mail talks about it, everybody goes online and searches for him. It's sort of, what's that expression? Like one thing begets the other, it's like shit is that shit does, And by the way, some of his stuff is extreme and not very pleasant or acceptable. But the other part of it, he's a businessman. He makes courses that really appeal to young disenfranchised blokes. Like, I'm not like trying to stand up for him or slate him. Like, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
Like what's it called? Some of those like heavy metal rock bands that like hate whoever they hate. Like, guess what? Everyone's talking about them. Their music's no good, but everyone's talking about them. It's crudely speaking, it's marketing, it's business.
Yes, it is. It's manipulation. I think a lot of it as well. I think
because if you can get 100,000 people to watch something, then Netflix will pay you £1 million.
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's something I've had to learn as well, but a lot of the men who we aspire to are incredible manipulators because they've figured out how to create attention and they've manipulated that. Then we don't necessarily follow or look or give our attention to people who are inspiring, who are incredibly grounded, who have done all the deep work and they're a proper elder. Do you know what I mean? Like, those people don't have time for manipulation on the internet.
No.
Some of them are around, because you can show what you want to show on the internet. So you can manipulate if you're smart and you get what will hook people, what will make people angry or...
And the problem for that is the algorithms. And I don't know how they're going to address that, but the algorithms are verging on criminal, really, because they're not allowing freedom of thought. They're, to a degree, you're allowed freedom of speech because you can publish whatever you want, but they're not allowing freedom of thought. And when you keep pumping someone stuff without them really having to go and look for it, it skews everything. If you think about what it took for a popular book to bubble up years gone by, what it took for an artist to reach the top. You and I, when we were younger, we had to go and search that out. We had to read magazines or listen to radio stations and write down songs and then go and buy the CD. And so quality bubbled up, or things that chimed with the moment bubbled up. I do think that social media will evolve / run its course. I think YouTube and knowledge-based content, I'd like to think, is going to continue to increase. I watch YouTube more than any other TV now because I just learn so much. It's bloody brilliant. Matt Gray, Daniel Priestley, Sonny Lazardi, I could list hundreds of them, and let alone old stuff as well. Wayne Dyer, Earl Nightingale, all his old stuff is on YouTube. You just have to go out there and look for it.
Good. What are your steps? What are the steps that a man goes through when he comes into the High Value Man project?
So the system for living breaks down into 2 frameworks, the 3XC formula and the fire code. So the 3XC formula is clarity, courage, and commitment. And I've done so much personal development, read the stuff, been on the courses, right? I've collated this. I haven't banged my head and come up with the flux capacitor, right? This is like my learned experience, but it's now been broken down into a process that's so simple. Clarity. Who are you? What do you bloody want? Most men can't answer that question. Then courage to be your true self, not dragging around the baggage or the shadow or the experiences or the broken relationship or the upset from your dad thrashing you or whatever the thing, not carrying that around. The courage to the courage to see it and then address it and let it go. And then inside of commitment, which is the third part, what's it going to take to get me from where I am today to where I want to be? And the bridge for that, for me, is the fire code. And the fire code is 16 habits and routines of what I deem a modern masculine baseline. And focus. So the fire code breaks down as focus, impact, relationships, and energy. Focus, that's yourself, your fitness, your diet, your sleep, your knowledge. Like, are you whole, like as a man? Like, are you the best you can be, right? Then impact, your money and your work, which then allows you to do more stuff in the community. But having your money and your work be stable and be something that you're enjoying or working towards at the very least, it means that you're not stressing about that or bringing it home, or it's just this thing that eats away at you. It's this thing that you're riding the wave. And then relationships. Clearly, if you're married and you've got kids, they're your core relationships, but they can't be your everything. Your wife didn't marry you so that you could have another mother. She wants to be your lover, your friend, your teammate. Like that's the adventure that you're on. The responsibility is to make sure you've got other people in your life that she's not having to like take on the show, like the persona of, strong friends, family, mentors. Like, don't be the smartest man in the room. That's like Napoleon Hill, like 101. And your contacts, your associates, like who are you putting yourself around? Like, what are you learning? Where are you going with all this? And then finally, energy, the amount of fun, adventure and peace you have in your life. Because what is the point of all this if we're not enjoying it? Like we're grossly significant about who we are on the planet and our role in all this. We are living on a speck of sand in terms of some of the other planets in the universe. And we are that small on this. And I heard on a podcast the other day, there's about 10 levels of awareness below human, like below what we operate at. And we know that because flipping coronaviruses can come in and kill us. We can't see that or pick it out of the air, right? So like we're wildly significant. The only thing we've got to do is enjoy the sun, have a swim in the sea, laugh with our mates and like enjoy this 60, 70, maybe 80 years we've got on this planet. And like, just, I'm very aware of time, but I've got this idea that when we die, there is a pearly gates, but it's like a barbecue. Jesus, God, Allah, Buddha, a unicorn, they're all like having a barbecue together, right? And there's this long, long line of people and they're having a beer and they're like, okay, I'll get another one, get to the gate, I'll go and sort that gate. Oh, hello, Johnny. Yes, good. Okay. Did you have fun? And then you go, oh no, well, yeah, I did have a bit of fun, but I cured cancer and I invented the car and I did all these things. No, that's fine. Did you have fun? Like you missed the point completely. Like you got given this miraculous chance to absolutely enjoy your time on the planet. Did you?
A beautiful place to end.
Indeed.
I've got many more questions, but Jonnie, thank you for your time.
No, your absolute pleasure. We're doing this next week and you're going to be the guest on the Jonnie Jensen show. So I look forward to hearing your take on all that. And I think also it's a beautiful platform for a joint event. We can share the bonfire together and bring our guys along.
Yeah, well, I've got a camp in the end of May and then I've got one at the end of June also. So
okay,
let's make it happen.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off the back of this. Good. Thanks so much for having me on. If people want to find out more what I do, they can go to highvaluemanproject.com. If they want to book a call, go to highvaluemanproject.com/turbo call. And, and if it's not me, then have it be someone, have it be Ben, have it be another men's group, whatever it takes. Just choose and be the best version of yourself.
Amen. All right, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good stuff.